All right, good morning and welcome to the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Seniors, Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities International Women's Day ceremony here at the Goodwill Parish Hall. We expect a good ceremony this morning, of course, as you already know. Yesterday was observed as International Women's Day, and today we are here at the Goodwill Parish Hall to bring you live coverage of the International Women's Day ceremony. Of course, a number of women will be recognized here today for their continued services to Dominica and women's development. We're expecting to hear remarks from the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and the Dominicans with Disabilities. That is Mrs. Sylvanie Burton. We'll hear an overview of the International Women's Day by the Director of the Bureau of Gender Affairs, Miss Melissa Morgan. The feature address this morning will be given by Ambassador Francine Barron, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Climate Resilience Executing Agency of Dominica, CREED. We'll also hear an address by the Honorable Dr. Alice King, Minister in the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities, and an address by the Senator Honorable Kasani Laville from the Ministry of Public Works and the Digital Economy, who will be representing the Honorable Prime Minister this morning. A number of certificates and awards will be given out this morning at the International Women's Day ceremony here at the Goodwill Parish Hall. So we are just awaiting a start at the Goodwill Parish Hall. I already see that the Director of the Bureau of Gender Affairs already at the podium, and so we go across for a start of the International Women's Day ceremony.
So good morning to Honorable Kasani Laville, Honorable Minister of Public Works and the Digital Economy, and representative of the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, our Minister, Honorable Dr. Addis King, Honorable Minister of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities, other Honorable Members of Cabinet, Mrs. Sylvanie Burton, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities, Cabinet Secretary, Ms. Karine Privot, other Permanent Secretaries present, Ambassador Francine Barron, CEO of the Climate Resilience Executing Agency of Dominica, distinguished awardees, heads of various women's and men's NGOs and other groups, the media, good morning. Today we will be having our official International Women's Day ceremony and award ceremony. And before we officially begin, I would like to invite Mr. Stephen Reed, Field Officer, to start with prayer.
Okay, good morning. Let's bow our head and close our eyes as we go before the throne of grace. Okay, Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing each and every one of us here today safely, Lord. We thank you for traveling mercies, for bringing the dignitaries and the awardees and everyone else in attendance. We thank you for bringing them here safely. For those of us who haven't reached us yet, we pray for traveling mercies for them as well. Lord, we pray that this event today will continue to encourage those of us who are receiving awards. We pray that it will continue to be a strength and serve as a pillar to the women of this nation and help them to continue to strive to do the best that they can for this country. I thank you for just watching over us, and we just pray that as we continue to go forward with this event, that you will be with us and that everything will go smoothly. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. And now I will invite our PS, Mrs. Sylvanie Burton, Permanent Secretary within our ministry, to officially welcome everyone. Any salutations?
Honorable Cassani Laville, Honorable Minister of Public Works and the Digital Economy, and representing the Honorable Prime Minister here this morning. Honorable Dr. Addis King, Minister of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities. Other honorable members of Cabinet, our Cabinet Secretary, Ms. Karen Privot, other permanent secretaries, Ambassador Francine Barron, the Chief Executive Officer of CREED, Ms. Melissa Morgan, Director, Bureau of Gender Affairs, our awardees, heads of various women's and men's NGOs and groups, the media, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good morning to you. Happy International Women's Day 2022. I am extremely pleased for the opportunity to offer welcoming remarks as we celebrate International Women's Day 2022 week of activities under the theme Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. Since our last celebration of International Women's Day, the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities has introduced several new initiatives towards the achievement of Sustainable Development Goal 5, which is achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. More notably is our continued work to support victims of gender-based violence, including a pilot safe housing program and scaling up client support for survivors. The United Nations theme for this year speaks to the recognition and celebration of the women and girls who are leading the charge on climate change adaptation and response, and to honor their leadership and contribution towards a sustainable future. This year, for our 7th annual awards ceremony, we will be awarding the unsung heroes in some of our communities. Women who have led and made significant contributions to building resilience in our society. A special welcome to Ambassador Francine Barron, the Chief Executive Officer of the Climate Resilience Executing Agency of Dominica, CREED, who is our featured speaker this morning. Ambassador Barron has demonstrated her commitment to integrating gender equality in government's projects and plans to build climate resilience in her capacity as CEO of CREED. Ambassador, welcome. To our Honorable Minister, Dr. Addis King, thank you once again for hosting our International Women's Day Awards. Honorable Minister, you continue to show in actions your commitment and willingness to go beyond the call of duty to achieve SDG 5. I would also like to warmly welcome the Honorable Cassani Laville, the Honorable Minister for Public Works and the Digital Economy, who will be representing the Honorable Prime Minister this morning, and I am sure he will be delivering some inspiring remarks. A hearty welcome to all the other ministers from the various ministries, our parliamentarians, and of course our Cabinet Secretary, who are here with us this morning to celebrate. To the staff of the Bureau of Gender Affairs and other government departments, heads of women and men's organizations, and the media, a special welcome for being here with us. I welcome each of you to this International Women's Day ceremony, and I would once again like to reiterate my commitment to gender equality and women empowerment. I thank you.
Yes, I printed for you. Thank you, PS. We'll now move on to the next part, a brief overview of what International Women's Day is. 114 years ago, 15,000 women marched through New York City demanding shorter working hours, better pay, and the right to vote. It was the Socialist Party of America who then declared the first National Women's Day 1 year later, and since then, countries all over the world observe and celebrate International Women's Day, with some countries even recognizing it as a national holiday. 43 years ago, the government of Dominica established the Women's Desk, which institutionalized the national machinery for representation of women's issues in Dominica. Since then, the women's desk has gradually progressed over the past 4 decades to now a more comprehensive mandate and taking into consideration various global emerging women's and men's issues. The government of Dominica, via the Bureau of Gender Affairs, in collaboration with several NGOs and other partners like the Dominica National Council of Women and Business Professional Women, host activities in light of International Women's Day on March 8th to strengthen messaging around gender equality and equity. Every year, from the Bureau, with the ministry via the Bureau, we try to break down what this international observance means for us as Caribbean people, as Dominicans, as Dominican women and men. The theme this year is particularly important and relevant to our national context. On the matter of fact, the theme could not come at a more opportune time as we battle the crippling effects of COVID-19 and as we prepare for imminent hurricane season. These conditions will have direct consequences on health, food security, and livelihoods. For us, International Women's Day is about celebrating our achievements. For example, according to UN Women, we rank number 25 out of 170 countries with available data regarding the percentage of women in ministerial positions. International Women's Day is about tracking our progress. What can we do to ensure that we fully achieve the Leave No One Behind SDG agenda? We must focus on the last first, the last behind first, the more vulnerable to achieve gender equality. Today and tomorrow, we will be officially observing International Women's Day, and we will be discussing various issues tomorrow in our panel discussion. Although our gender issues look different than most other countries, more recently we can see the range of social and gender issues affecting countries in conflict. However, we do have our own unique gender issues, which we will clearly articulate over the next 2 days. Thank you. I will now invite PS again to introduce our featured speaker.
Ambassador Francine Barron was born in Roseau, Dominica, a lawyer by training. She holds a graduate and postgraduate degrees in law from the University of Wolverhampton and the University of London, respectively. Ms. Barron has served in the Diplomatic Service of Dominica as High Commissioner in London. She also served as Attorney General and Minister of Finance and Minister of Foreign Affairs, and CARICOM Affairs. Ms. Barron is currently the Chief Executive Officer of the Climate Resilience Execution Agency for Dominica, CREED. As the CEO, she is tasked, among other things, with leading and coordinating strategic initiatives across sectors to support the implementation of Dominica's Climate Resilience Recovery Plan. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome our featured speaker, Ambassador Francine Barron.
Thank you, PS. Honorable Kasani Laville, Honorable Minister of Public Works and the Digital Economy, and representative of the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Roosevelt Skerritt, Honorable Dr. Addis King, Honorable Minister of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities, other Honorable Members of Cabinet, Mrs. Sylvani Burton, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Youth Development, Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities, Cabinet Secretary, Ms. Karen Privo, other Permanent Secretaries, Ms. Melissa Morgan, Director of the Bureau of Gender Affairs, awardees, heads of various women and men's NGO and groups, the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am truly honored to be asked to address you as we continue to celebrate International Women's Day. It is a day that has been celebrated for over 100 years. It is a day when we pause to celebrate women's leadership in the social, cultural, economic, and political sphere. It is also a call to action for us to address gender disparity issues. This year's theme, Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow, is a recognition that all human beings should be treated equally and all given a chance to reach their full potential. When we speak of gender equality, we reference women, men, boys, and girls enjoying the same human rights, having equal opportunities, equal access and control over resources, and equal participation in decision-making. Gender and climate are profoundly intertwined. Climate change impacts people differently based on their differentiated roles and responsibilities, which are often defined by gender. For example, in the agricultural sector in many countries, including Dominica, men are typically responsible for commercial crops, whereas women may be responsible for subsistence crops to feed the family. The impact of climate change affects women and girls disproportionately. Therefore, in seeking to build a resilient nation, women empowerment and support are critical to the advancement of our agenda. Gender sensitivity must be reflected in both disaster response as well as disaster preparedness. It must factor into addressing issues of climate change, environmental protection, conservation and preservation, and the sustainable utilization of natural resources. Disaster risk management and mitigation programs must recognize, plan, and respond to the differential impacts of natural disasters on women, girls, and men and boys. Today, we will honor examples of excellence by outstanding females in our country under the theme of this year's International Women's Day, Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. So what does a sustainable tomorrow look like? How can we contribute to a sustainable tomorrow? Women in developing countries are generally the first to respond to managing the environmental capital that surrounds them and interact with natural resources and ecosystems daily, from collecting water for cooking and cleaning to using the land for livestock and crops to expertly collecting herbs and plants for various organic healing remedies. However, we sometimes fail to recognize what women contribute or can contribute to the survival of the planet and to development. Gender inequality and social exclusion continue to increase the negative effects of unsustainable and destructive environmental practices on women and girls. The climate crisis and gender inequality are two core issues at the heart of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The global effort to advance gender equality and tackle climate change at the same time has been lauded as one of the greatest challenges to humanity in the 21st century. UN figures indicate that 80% of people displaced by climate change and climate-related disasters are women and girls, while 70% of the 1.3 billion people living in conditions of poverty are women. It is therefore essential that sustainability and gender equality efforts go hand in hand. It can be said that the deck is stacked against women, as they are largely disadvantaged by structural inequalities. Women are major contributors to agriculture and rural economies, but face numerous challenges that men do not. UN statistics show, for example, that women make up 43% of the agricultural workforce worldwide and play a central role in sustainable food systems, yet only 20% of women own land. They have less access to resources and services, including finance, training, inputs, and equipment. In addition to their agricultural work, they are overburdened with unpaid work, such as domestic chores and caregiving tasks. We fail sometimes to realize that that is a cost. This results in women doing less paid work and earning less than men. Data from the University of the West Indies for at least the past 4 years puts the number of female students at more than 65%. But Caribbean women still only make 60 to 70 cents for every dollar made by men. Why are these things important? In our Caribbean society, we have many households being headed by women. If women are not earning decent wages, then the family suffers and structural inequalities will persist. Women are also more at risk for gender-based violence, and this can be traced historically to unequal power relations between men and women, cultural norms, and gender stereotyping. The fear, insecurity, and sometimes health challenges that results limits participation of women in activities and constrains socio-economic development. Promoting gender equality as a means to achieve sustainability and resilience is a key element of CREED's work and are ideals that are reflected both in Dominica's National Resilience Development Strategy and the Climate Resilience and Recovery Plan. They emphasize the imperative of achieving the empowerment of women and redressing gender disparities, and the value in mainstreaming of gender equality in budgeting, social programming, and service delivery. Data shows that when women are empowered and given the resources that they need, it makes climate action more effective. Families, communities, and the country benefits. A global analysis prepared by UN Women recently concluded that when women participate at the local level, it results in a better economic outcome in natural resource management and climate interventions. It also concludes that simply having more women in Parliament, elected and represented in policy making, leads to the adoption of more stringent climate policies, resulting in lower emissions. It has been noted that women's political participation is now recognized internationally as a key element in building genuine democracy and fostering social progress. The call for greater numbers of transformational women leaders in politics and governance stems from the understanding that women's equal participation is not only a fundamental human right, but also contributes to sustainable development. Women's achievement of 30% of seats in national parliaments, or a critical mass, has been specified in the Beijing Platform for Action, Sustainable Development Goals, and the Commonwealth Plan of Action for Gender Equality 2005 to 2015 as an indicator of progress towards gender equality and women's empowerment. We are fortunate in Dominica to have achieved that critical mass, with 1/3 or 34.4% of our parliamentarians as women, almost 1/3 or 31.5% of cabinet members being female, and having 81% of permanent secretaries in the public service as females, and almost 1/3 or 31.7% of women heading local government councils at the last count. We now must strive for a 50-50 split. Gender integration or gender mainstreaming ensures that social identities and norms are considered in planned actions, policies, and programs in all areas and at all levels. This approach recognizes the need to take social and economic differences between men and women into account, to ensure that proposed policies and programs have intended and fair results for women, men, boys, and girls. The significance of empowering women in the context of climate change was evident at COP26 in Glasgow with a dedicated Gender Day. And it is also why the overarching theme of this year's International Women's Day 2022 is acknowledging the contribution of women and girls around the world who are leading the charge on climate change adaptation, mitigation, and response to build a more sustainable future for us all. Empowering women and girls to have a voice, to be equal players in decision-making related to climate change and sustainability, is essential for sustainable development and greater gender equality. And it is against this background that I celebrate and applaud each of the women being honored today. Dominica has led the way in the past in having the Caribbean's first female Prime Minister 42 years ago. We are leading the way now in being one of the few countries in the world to have reached critical mass in having women represented in high political office. And we can continue to lead the way in addressing all of the structural inequalities that women and girls face. We have already started in having this reflected in our recent policy documents, and I applaud the work that the Bureau of Gender Affairs continues to do in that regard. We already see the diverse representation of women in many areas of society, but there is need to do more, particularly at the grassroots level. We have the opportunity, and might I say the responsibility, to ensure that gender considerations are mainstreamed across all sectors in the public and private sector and reflected in all our policies and budget setting. If we are to achieve resilience and sustainability, this is a must. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Barron. I thought that was a very amazing delivery. Thank you for outlining the achievements and the existing gaps of where we are, how we have led the way, and what we remain to do. So we will move on now to our next speaker, our Minister, Honorable Dr. Addis King, Minister of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities.
Honorable Cassani Laville, Honorable Minister of Public Works and the Digital Economy, and representative of our Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, other honorable members of Cabinet, especially my women colleagues, Cabinet Secretary, Ms. Karen Privot, Ms. Sylvanie Burton, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities, other permanent secretaries, Ambassador Francine Barron, Chief Executive Officer of the CRID Agency of Dominica, Ms. Melissa Morgan, Director, Bureau of Gender Affairs, our very special awardees, heads of various women's and men NGOs and groups. Special welcome to the business and professional women represented today by the President, Diane Blanford, the media, and our listening public. A special good morning to all of you. It is with great honor that I join you here today at the 7th Annual Exceptional Women's Awards Ceremony organized by the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities via the Bureau of Gender Affairs in observance of International Women's Day 2022. Today marks the continued call for the acceleration of efforts aimed at gender equality and equity as we work towards creating a world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. This year's theme, Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow, speaks to the contribution of women and girls around the world who are leading the charge on climate change adaptation, mitigation, and response to build a more sustainable future for all. Today, it gives me great honor to recognize the invaluable contribution of 4 Dominican women in the area of climate resilience, sustainable development, agriculture, and the empowerment of vulnerable groups in the context of disaster preparedness. Actually, I feel very privileged to be standing here before you all, acknowledging the achievement of our hard-working and industrious Dominican women. I want to draw your attention to the important role women are playing as natural resource managers and agents of change. It is imperative that we, as a nation, recognize the role and draw on our women's commitment, lived experiences, and expertise in shaping strategies and responses. Your lived experiences are sources of wisdom for all, more so younger women who are themselves in search of their strengths, their abilities, their fountains of intelligence, and indeed, their wisdom. To speak about women in general and women who are exceptional is to draw on their experiences pertaining to gender equality and resilience, if not a tremendous capacity for sustainability. When I speak of gender equality, I am speaking of equal access to resources, to opportunities, equal rights and responsibilities, irrespective of biological sex. When I speak of sustainable development, I am speaking of development which meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Our awardees here are fully aware of inequality issues and the ceaseless urgency that sustainable development requires and demands. There is, too, a strong correlation between climate change and sustainable development. We cannot have sustainable development if countries or islands are constantly being impacted or threatened by natural disasters. Island states like Dominica are among those most adversely affected by climate change. Let's just take a step back and think of the impacts of Tropical Storm Erica and Hurricane Maria on our economy and the country. It is therefore a fact that development cannot be sustainable until we address climate change and begin to alleviate the impacts of climate change via adaptation, mitigation, and response. According to the United Nations, women are increasingly being recognized as more vulnerable to climate change impacts than men, as they constitute the majority of the world's poor and are more dependent on the natural resources which climate change threatens the most. This brings me to my main point, and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is crystal clear. There can be no sustainable development without gender equality. Awardees, no society can exist without the contribution of women. You are the bedrock of this nation, agents of change, the backbone of our families, our society, and our community. I want to thank you for your continued contribution in your respectful fields. Let us continue to work together, leveraging our strengths to have a greater impact for a sustainable future for all. The awardees here today have remained consistent over the years. Some have dedicated their whole lives to community development and food security. I want to specially recognize Ms. Onya Charles, who is from St. Joseph, and have known her since as a young child, going to the garden, working hard, and ensuring that she does only provide foods for her children, but for the community and for the hucksters. The women here today are the unsung heroes of our rural communities. We hope their stories can be an inspiration to many of you. Congratulations once again to all our awardees and your families. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Very great delivery. And again, congrats to our awardees. We will now move directly to our next speakers. Honorable Kasani Laville, the Minister of Public Works and Digital Economy, and representative today of the Honorable Prime Minister.
Honorable Dr. Addis King, Minister of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities. Thank you for your inspiring remarks. And Dr. King is certainly another example of an exemplary woman in a personal, professional, and political capacity. Other members of cabinet who are certainly distinguished women as well, welcome to you. Ms. Karen Prevost, Cabinet Secretary. Mrs. Silvani Burton, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities. Other permanent secretaries, many of whom are also women. Ambassador Francine Barron, CEO, Climate Resilience Executing Agency of Dominica, certainly gave some inspiring remarks and called us to even greater action for equality. Ms. Melissa Morgan, Director, the Bureau of Gender Affairs, another prominent and upstanding woman. Mr. Stephen Reed, certainly not a woman, but my brother from Maho, who I must salute today for his hard work in his ministry. I'm proud of you, Stephen. To the distinguished awardees, today is your day. Heads of various NGOs and groups, the media, listeners, and viewers, good morning. I'm certainly privileged to be in your company, in the company of so many distinguished women who continue to make a mark on social, economic, cultural, and also the political landscape of Dominica. Your contribution to our country's progress and stability is unquestionable. Congratulations on receiving this award today. International Women's Day was officially observed yesterday, March 8th, but allow me to wish you a happy International Women's Day. This year's celebration was observed under the theme, Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow, with a focus on women's role in the fight against climate change and disaster risk and mitigation. In Dominica, our women are overly familiar with the impact of climate change on the lives and the livelihoods of all. On the heels of two major disasters, and I speak to Tropical Storm Erica and Hurricane Maria, they have had to also contend with a 2-year-old pandemic which threatens the well-being and stability of their families and their communities. Yet, as is often the case, our women are showing their strength and their mettle. They have successfully navigated these uncertain times to ensure the safety of their children, their families, and also their communities. Many of them are in the forefront of the national effort to secure and maintain the collective health of our nation. In concert with our men, our many nurses, doctors, and risk communication specialists are women who have worked assiduously to keep the COVID-19 virus at bay. We take this opportunity today to salute their heroic efforts and assure them of the enduring gratitude of the government and the people of Dominica. This year, the United Nations has called for women and girls to have a voice and be equal players in decision-making related to climate change and sustainability. because of the recognition that women are more vulnerable to climate change impacts. This is a timely and relevant focus for the United Nations, and here in Dominica, we can most certainly relate. But I can say with confidence also that we are positioning our women to be strong and effective partners as we tackle the common challenges presented by climate change. Earlier, you heard the remarks from the Chief Executive Officer of CREED, Her Excellency Francine Barron, about the many advances that we have made in our climate resilience goals since the passage of Hurricane Maria. This government continues to empower women to take control of their lives and their futures through the provision of access to education and social services. In the past few years, we have seen a growing emphasis for assistance to women in farming, to equip them and to engage them in sustainable farming practices, to build their agro-processing enterprises and contribute to overall food security. These measures are deliberately designed to assist our women to realize higher crop yields in agriculture and to provide better nutrition and care for their families and to achieve financial stability. Under government's housing relief programs, hundreds of women across our country have been provided with safer shelter. This fosters stability for their children and their families. In short, we are empowering women to build more resilient lives and livelihoods to prepare them for the uncertain and often disrupting nature of climate change and disaster. At the national level, we are also creating greater access for women to participate in public sector management, business leadership, and politics. And they're certainly stepping up to the plate. You can certainly see it here today, right here in this room. Our women have proven to be capable leaders, focused on the development not only of self, but on the creation of opportunities for other women and youth to excel. We are seeing more women entering the entrepreneurship space and inspiring others in their circle to become more productive, more enterprising, and more participatory in their business of nation building, economic advancement of their families. The government of Dominica will continue to create the enabling environment for our women and girls to progress and to prosper. Through our various initiatives in the digital economy, in education, in agriculture, and social services, we will provide space for women and girls to explore their talents and pursue their dreams and aspirations. We are also committed to their safety and dignity, and will ensure the right systems are developed to protect them from gender-related abuse, inequality, and discrimination. I commend the Bureau of Gender Affairs for its work to protect the rights of women and girls, and look forward to the development and implementation of more direct policies to advance their safety and ensure that they are able to thrive and to succeed. This year, we are encouraged to break the bias. This speaks to the need for women to have equal access and opportunity in all aspects of life. I am proud to say that in Dominica, we are well on our way to breaking that bias. Your presence here today to accept this accolade for your exceptional work is a striking demonstration of the strides women have made to continue to build our society. The Ministry of Gender Affairs has chosen well. You exemplify excellence and hard work. I applaud your commitment and the individual contribution that you have made to our country. Be proud. This government, the people of Dominica, are most certainly proud of you. Do continue to shine. May God continue to bless you and to bless all the young women and girls and all the women in Dominica. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Laville. Very inspiring. We will now take a short break with a performance before we move on to the presentation of awards. So today we will have our Calypso Queen, Tasha P., who will be performing. Thanks.
Good morning to everybody present here, to the head table. It is always my pleasure and my honor to be a part of something so beautiful, especially when it comes to empowering women. I'm not a feminist, but I love the idea of empowering women and giving them that encouragement. And I just want to say thank you again to Melissa Morgan and her ministry and the minister for wanting me here or for having me here. So I really hope you enjoy the entertainment, and if you feel free to entertain yourselves in joining in and participating and smile plenty like Mommy's doing right now. All right, so this first one was a special request. I really hope that the words touch you, and then we'll go right along to the favorite for this particular event.
Backbiting, hey! Stop it. In life, we all have plenty frenemies, close friends who are our greatest enemies. They laugh with you, but true intention is in disguise. When your back is turned, you feel the daggers and hear their lies. They will screw your image and principles. They will screw your motives for spite. They will make you look like a real devil, even you doing everything right. Don't confront them like Judas, they will deny. Do not touch them, two wrongs don't make a right. Don't badmouth them, don't stoop to their level. From now, hear what we go do with these people. We go push them on the road to success. We go hit them with prize, wish them the best. We go beat them at their game of skew. And we go kill them with kindness too. We go fight against hate and jealousy. Wipe out all the animosity. Stomp them with soft and gentle souls. And then from there, Jah will take control. You agree? We're going to kill him with kindness? Alright. Dirty boy. Stop the hating, the backbiting. Hey! Stop it. It is said, misery loves company. Beware of some struggling more than we. When you give a hand, ensure you're anchored stronger. Instead of climbing up, they will be fighting to pull you down. They count your losses like it's their gain. They just say that it serves you right. And when they ask you how is life, they like to hear things tight. Don't mind them, you can't babush when you try. Stay calm if they shake the ladder when you climb. Do not strike them if they trip you on your way. Même si yo célèbre leur tomber. Hey! We go push them on the road to success. We go hit them with praise, wish them the best. We go beat them at their game of skew. And we go kill them and jealousy. Wipe out all the animosity. Stomp them with soft and gentle songs. And then from there, Jah will take control. Hey, 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 dirty boy. Stop the hating, the backbiting. Hey, stop it. Now hear this. Anytime you have a hatred and envy, you are your greatest enemy. Want happiness, careful what you do, cause all the mal you do to others will fall back on you. Huh. Everyone will see you for what you are. You can hide deception for years, when all you do is lambaste others. It reflects your character and not theirs. Constant lying will weigh on your mind and soul. Backbiting will make your face wax and old. All the hating will raise your pressure up. You'll be sick and miserable if you don't give up. So that's what we're going to do. We go push them on the road to success. We go hit them with praise, wish them the best. We go beat them at their game of skill. And we go kill them with kindness too. We go fight against hate and jealousy. Wipe out all the animosity and smile plenty. Stomp them with soft and gentle songs. And then from there, Jah will take control. Hey, 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 whoa, tatty boy. Stop the hating, the backbiting. Tell them, let me hear you. Stop it. Thank you so much, thank you. And this next one is for all the women all over the world. And as I always say, no offense to the men because we love them and need them, or should I say y'all, because we have some wonderful men in the crowd with us and in here with us today. But this one is a woman empowerment song. And feel free, as I said, to raise your hand, sing along if you want to get up and move by your chair, because we're following all the protocols today. But this one is for all of you women. Let's go. Hey, here we go. Eh, 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 eh. Eh, eh, eh. Eh, 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 eh. Serious business. There was a time, there was a season when things were really absurd. Woman had so much to contribute, but still they were not heard. But the chains of bondage soon were broken, and we have denounced that fate. Now we have conquered, yes, we have risen, and have taken our rightful place. So, we standing up, cause it's woman time. Sing a song. Woman time, plumbers and calypsonians. Woman time, doctors and electricians. Woman time, carpenters and mechanics. Eh, woman time, farmers and pharmacists. Hear the snow. No more in the kitchen, no more. Or in the bedroom waiting, no more. Staying up to see what he bring, no more. Waiting for the phone to ring, no more. Right now it's woman time. Sorry, we got we own SUV. Do you agree? Hey, 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 hey. Boom. Let's try. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, hey, hey. Yeah. Hey, 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 hey. Huh. Since we asserted our independence, some men really got scared. They were so used to bossing us around. For this change, they were not prepared. So now in every nook and cranny, women display their authority. We controlled the judiciary, the ministry, and even even your salary look trouble. We're rising up, we're standing up, cause it's woman time. Sing a song. Woman time, architects and physicians. Woman time, plumbers and carpenters. That's it. Woman time, house speaker and prime minister. Woman time, astronauts and designers. No more house cleaner, no more. Or your babysitter, no more. Your office receptionist, no more. Or your husband mistress, no more. I say it's woman time. I say to give us what is ours. Make some noise, everybody. Hey, hey, hey. Boom. One time. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, 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 hey. We're singing verse 1 again. And was a time, there was a season when things were really absurd. Woman had so much to contribute, but still they were not heard. But the chains of bondage soon were broken, and we have denounced that fate. No, we have conquered, yes, we have risen and have taken our rightful place. Let me see your hands. We're standing up, cause it's woman time. Sing a song. Woman time, architects and physicians. Woman time, musicians and technicians. Woman time, house speaker and prime minister. One more time. Woman time, astronauts and designers. No more in the kitchen, sing, no more. Or in the bedroom waiting, sing, no more. Staying up to see what he bring, no more. Waiting for that phone to ring, no more. We say it's woman time. It's we who running the business. Look, trouble. Hey, 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 hey. Here we go. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, 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 hey. Now let me see your hands like so. We're singing, there we go. What time is it? Sing it. What time is it? One more time. Right now it's woman time. Pump it, pump it, pump it. Woman time. That's right. One time, woman time. Make some noise for yourself, everybody. I love you. Woman time.
All right, you had a special performance by the second virtual monarch of Dominica 2022, Tasha P. And of course, our first ever female Calypso monarch with a splendid performances fitting for the occasion of the International Women's Day ceremony. So we continue with the program here this morning as we bring you a synopsis on the Exceptional Women Awards.
This year, the Cabinet appointed a committee to recommend nominees and give recommendation based on the given criteria. For the committee, a priority was ensuring that this year the awardees were unsung heroes, everyday women that have done amazing things consistently over the years. The committee members included Ammonia Paul Roll, Social Development Planner in the Ministry of Planning, Sawana Fabian from UNDP Project Office, Kathy Roberts from the Local Government Department, Diane Blanford and Rhoda St. John, who both represented business professional women, and I representing the Ministry of Youth Development. Committee members reached out to key stakeholders like village councils, NGOs, various government and non-government departments, community leaders to put together a list of eligible women based on the criteria. And when necessary, the Bureau had to support with drafting biographies, which in itself was an inspirational experience. As per previous years, the criteria was 1, a proven record of growth, success, and influence in her sector. And this year, in line of the theme, Gender Equality for a Sustainable Tomorrow, the categories were food security, sustainable development, and aspects of climate change and climate resilience. They have had to have experience beyond paid employment, paid work, paid community involvement and service. Although they may not have realized it, they should have supported or initiated gender responsive initiatives in their respective sector. They should have acted as a mentor for young girls and young boys, and they should have exhibited a high standard of integrity by leading through example and maintains high personal awards. The committee met to rank and discuss the final list of nominees, and the Honorable Minister gave her feedback and final approval. So we now move on to the presentation of awards. We will start with the awards first for agriculture and food security. So I'd like to invite our Honorable Minister to present. So our first awardee is Mrs. Alberta Sorrendo. Alberta Sorrendo of Daly Seas has been planting and processing toloma from the age of 20. It has always been her main form of livelihood. Mrs. Sorrendo is the pioneer of the Toloma Woman in Action group. She calls this her greatest achievement. The group was founded in 2007, and despite the negative impacts of climate change, namely Erica and Hurricane Maria, and the negative socio-economic impact of the COVID, the group has shown utmost resilience and continued to produce at the same production levels, despite now not having the necessary production equipment. Following the demise of the banana industry, Daly Seas took the whole issue of diversification very seriously. For most other communities, this thrust was led by the male population, but for Daly's, this effort was led by women. And the contributions of Alberta at that time to this effort cannot be overstated. Beyond this paid service, she would advocate about the many nutritional and profitable benefits of toloma. Through her efforts, many families, especially other women and female-headed households, found gainful employment through the toloma value chain, and many will tell you this is how their children were able to go to school. Today, almost 15 years after the establishment of the Toloma's Women's Group, and over 50 years as a Toloma farmer and agro-processor, Mrs. Sorrendo still serves as the president and has supported the bounce back of the group several occasions after the impact of several shocks. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Alberta Sorrendo.
Alberta Sorrendo receiving her award from the Minister of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and the Dominicans with Disabilities. Dr.
Next awardee, Onya Charles. Miss Onya Charles of St. Joseph has been farming since the 1980s. She started farming as a child, however, she took on a more serious approach when she started her family. She is a mother of 6. As a mother, Ms. Charles had to juggle the unpaid care roles of caring for children, house chores, while still maintaining and building a profitable career in the agricultural sector. She attributes her children's success to her career in the agricultural sector. Although she started farming with no land ownership, through hard work and dedication, she was able to acquire up to 11 acres of land, which she currently plants a variety of produce such as plantain, dasheen, ginger, bananas, yams, citrus. She remains an active farmer with one of her children who are continuing in her footsteps. Her biggest accomplishment as a farmer occurred during the height of the banana industry, when it was mostly known as a male-dominated sector. At that time, when the sector was predominantly, she harvested 110 boxes of banana weekly. Although the impact of climate change oh. Continue. Okay. So at the time when the agricultural sector was predominantly male, she harvested 110 boxes of banana weekly. Although the impact of climate change, and more specifically Hurricane Maria, and challenges associated with the pandemic were huge setbacks, Miss Charles showed utmost resilience and slowly returned to pre-Hurricane Maria production levels. The Cuba-Cajome Road had collapsed during Hurricane Maria, and sometimes Miss Charles will traverse for over 2 hours with heavy loads to get to her farm. She is a true example of our resilient woman in the agricultural sector. Only a chance.
Another woman, exceptional woman being awarded here at the International Women's Day ceremony. If you are just tuning into DBS Radio at this time, we're bringing you live coverage of the International Women's Day ceremony brought to you by the Ministry of Youth Development and
Okay,
Empowerment,
our next
Youth
award
at Risk,
is for Sustainable
Gender Affairs,
Development,
Senior Securities,
Mrs. Anna-Claire
and
Thomas,
Dominicans with
Frederick.
Disabilities.
Anna-Claire Thomas has contributed significantly to her hometown Marigot. Upon her return to Dominica in 1973, one of her first major contributions to sustainable development was her investment in electricity in her community. At her own expense, she paid to have electrical poles installed so that she and other community members in her area could have access to electricity. Although at the time she might not have considered herself working towards gender equality, her work towards the establishment of the club, Moving Brothers, is a prime example of community-led gender-responsive initiatives promoting healthy masculinities. She noticed that several young men were on drugs, and she fixed a building at Fore Road and gave it to them to form a club called Moving Brothers. Mrs. Thomas did a great deal to improve the road over gutter to dam. She would employ people to work on the road. She would buy the material herself. After Hurricane David, there was very little materials available in the country. She gave much of her materials she had bought for her own building project at Melville Hall for work on the road from Mango Grove to Hatton Garden. She has also contributed by obtaining pipes from Guadeloupe to help repair the water system so that everyone from gutter to dam could have access to water. Though, strangely enough, she was the only one who had no access to water. Regarding improving access to healthcare, Anna-Claire made a major contribution to the building of the first Marigot Hospital in a financial contribution of 60,000 EC. Regarding food security, in 1980, after a study of women in agriculture done by SPAT, Mrs. Thomas gave some of her land at Craig so that the newly formed group of women in agriculture would carry out their agricultural activities. As a result of the operation of this group, Market Day started at Ware's Marigot, of which she was a regular vendor. She also remained a dedicated farmer herself. She also made a significant contribution to education in Marigot. In 1981, she made the first contribution of $1,000 to the building of the high school in Marigot, and became one of the very few people in Marigot who contributed financially to this venture. In Mrs. Thomas' words, "I looked at it as the best school developed in Dominica, and she was proud to name it Marigot Foundation High School." In the field of sports, Mrs. Thomas also made a significant contribution. She built a hard court on her property at Melville Hall at a cost of 60,000 EC. This made facilities available for volleyball, basketball, and netball, and the court continued until a court was built at the Wares Government School. Today, Mrs. Thomas continues to support in whatever way that she can to support the community in activities plan. Mrs. Anna-Claire Thomas.
A true example of an exceptional woman being recognized here today. Of course, she's just receiving her award from Dr. Addis King, and as you heard in her biography, as a contribution, made a great contribution to community development and, of course, the youth within the community.
Okay, and our last awardee for the empowerment of community persons for disaster risk reduction, Adelina Detush. And today, Sulandaru will be accepting on her behalf. Unfortunately, with the reopening of schools, she was unable to commit to come in today. So between 1988 and 1989, His Now Excellency Felix Gregor Ambassador met and inspired a few villagers to take up the role of assisting in the development of Scotshead. The names Vanya Martin, Lucia Martin, Conrad Caesar, Jeff Bellert, and Adelina Detouche, among others, became household names in the groups and activities that dominated that period. The following groups gained prominence: the Scots Head Improvement Committee, the Scots Head Disaster Management Committee, the Adult Education Committee, all these groups being spearheaded by Adelina Detouche. Based on discussions with the above-mentioned names, the groups decided to get involved in the village council elections of 1988 when Mrs. Detouche began her journey in local government and community development. During those 12 years in the village council, Mrs. Detouche served as a chairperson for 2 terms. Under her leadership, Local Government Month was observed in grand style in the community, and Community Appreciation Day was the highlight during that time, where the villagers who have made meaningful contributions to the development of their parish were recognized. Through her leadership, she ensured the organization of disaster management groups in Soufrière and Gallior, as Scott said, were well established and functioning. Her involvement in Dominican Association of Local Authorities was positive, and she gravitated towards getting involved in the Scotshead Health Team and the Scotshead Women's Group as an affiliate to the National Women's Team under the leadership of Mrs. Josephine Dublin Prince. Mrs. Detouche worked hand in hand with the Adult Education Department and the Scotshead Adult Ed Committee, and through her work, she received 5 sewing machines, stove, cooking utensils, which catapulted the group on being one of the most vibrant groups on the island. This is one of the ways of building the resilience of community persons. A sewing group emerged, selling baby clothes to people in the community, which provided livelihood opportunities for many women. Under the watch of Detouche, the village participated in quarterly cleanup campaigns, which taught villagers the importance of volunteerism, especially for disaster risk reduction. A magazine was launched with the assistance of His Excellency Ambassador Felix Gregoire and several villagers who were honored for their invaluable contribution to the parish at a special dinner organized on their behalf. Though Mrs. Detouche is no longer active in the village council, she has always offered her assistance to those who lead. She is still very active in community development and disaster risk reduction in that community, and she continues to lead the Scotshead Improvement Committee and the Scotshead Disaster Management Committee. She is looking forward to renewed zeal to the completion of the Caribantic and the end of the pandemic to resume more active involvement in the community again. Adelina Detouche, and on her behalf, Sulandaro.
And the final exceptional woman being awarded here, and just receiving an award, Ms. Daru, receiving the award on behalf of Mrs. Detouche.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable Minister, and thank you to all our awardees. Congratulations.
Synopsis on the exceptional women awards here at the International.
We now move to the close.
Day
I would like to
ceremony.
invite Chanel Leta to give the vote of thanks before we end for today.
A warm and graceful morning to our Honorable Kasani Laville, representing the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, our Honorable Minister, Dr. Addis King, other ministers present, Ambassador Francine Barron, our PS, Mrs. Burton, and other PSs present, all the beautiful women and everyone gathered here. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks speech and acknowledge the contribution of those who worked really hard to make this International Women's Day celebration possible. Thank you to our Honorable Minister and Permanent Secretary who continue to support gender equality and equity work in Dominica. Our gratitude for your invaluable support to the hosting of our various observances cannot be overstated. I would like to thank my brilliant and truly outstanding director, Ms. Melissa Morgan, whose leadership and vision continues to steer this annual event. And to my amazing colleagues at the Bureau of Gender Affairs, thank you for your continuous support and motivation. Also, Thanks to the various private sector organizations for contributing towards the successful execution of today's activities, including Surgical Insurance and the National Bank of Dominica. Thank you to our 4 selected exceptional women. Continue being great and an inspiration to others. I take this opportunity to extend our most sincere thanks to all our guest invitees who have come from different destinations for their support and cooperation. Thanks to the media for your support. An event like this cannot happen overnight. It required a lot of planning and execution. I have been fortunate to be part of a team who is very motivated and dedicated. I cannot thank everyone enough for the involvement they have shown and the willingness they have expressed to take on the completion of the task. Thank you once again.
So thank you, everyone. Congrats again to our awardees. We are now to the end. We have some refreshments at the back before you go. Have a great day and happy International Women's Day.
And there we have it, come to an end of the ceremony here this morning. International Women's Day ceremony by the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Seniors, Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities. Just about 4 women being recognized here on the exceptional service to community development here in Dominica, and we congratulate them here on behalf of management and staff of DBS for their continued work. Of course, we continue to just lay the platform for women. We here in Dominica by just laying the foundation so for all women to continue the work that they are doing. We heard from the director of the Bureau of Gender Affairs. We had the feature address brought by the Ambassador Francine Barron, Chief Executive Officer of the Climate Resilience Executing Agency of Dominica. You heard from Dr. Addis King, the Minister of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, and Senior Securities and Dominicans with Disabilities. And you heard the address of the Honorable Prime Minister, represented here today by Senator Honorable Kasani Laville, who is the Minister of Public Works and the Digital Economy. So we say thank you to our listeners and thank you to our viewers as well for being part of this International Women's Day ceremony here in Dominica. Again, we want to wish all our women in Dominica all the best and continue to be in the foundation to greater futures, greater generation.